13 Kartik Prabhupada Katha with Amrita Keli Prabhu, who became a devotee in Toronto, Canada. And her husband is Kratu Prabhu, who is Guru. This sitting in front of you is his better half. Hare Krishna.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasyatya Desidana Om Agyan Tinandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. My husband met this movement in 1970 in St. Louis. He went on Harinam. He was in downtown and the Harinam was going on. So he really liked it, and then he went to the devotees. And then devotee gave him a book, Krishna book. So he found out the center was right near his apartment. So he started going in the temple in 1970. It was a preaching center. So I was in India and I didn't want to come to America. So he was because I was thinking there is no Krishna in America. So I didn't want to come. So he wrote me that there is a Krishna. I found Krishna here. There is a little temple, preaching center. There is Tulsi Maharani. Every letter he was writing like that because there was no phone that time. So then I believed him and then I said, okay, I'll come. So in 1971 I came. But I'm so happy that I came, otherwise I won't meet Prabhupada. Because in India I never see Prabhupada. So I think it was Prabhupada's mercy on me. So he bring me to the West. So we used to go Sunday feast in 1970, and then we moved to Toronto in 1973. But in Toronto there was a small temple on Girard Street, so we didn't know there was an ISKCON temple in Toronto for 1 year. So we was feeling bad. Then one day his friend, he came to my house and he said, come to Mangala Aarti with me, to my husband, and he thought he will take me to Vishwa Hindu Parishad. So he said, I don't want to go. He said, no, I'll take you to the temple. So he took him to the temple, Girard temple, ISKCON temple. And my husband was so happy that he met Prabhupada again in 1974, I think. So since 74 we was going to the temple like every Sunday and whenever the president called us. And it was very nice atmosphere, all the devotee was so lovable. So in 75, Vishwakarma told us that Prabhupada is coming. So we was ready to see him because we never see him before. So Prabhupada came on Thursday night. And then my husband said we'll go Friday because we were living far from the temple, like 32 kilometers far. And I couldn't go, so I told him because I was in my 3 days, so I said I won't go. So he said maybe we'll go, I will go tomorrow. So next morning Vishwakarma called that you missed the chance because Prabhupada has some emergency in Detroit, so he has to leave for Detroit. And then we both feel so bad that how did we make this mistake? And then Vishwakarma chastised me. He says, at least you should have come to see Prabhupada even if you are in 3 days or whatever. Then I find out that you can go to the temple when you are in 3 days. I didn't know. So next time when Prabhupada came, I had the same problem. But at least I knew that I can go to the temple. So he came in 76. Prabhupada came in 76. And he stayed there for 1 week. And he was giving Bhagavatam class every morning. And then he used to give a cookie to the mother and the kids. So that way we can go near Prabhupada and get the cookies. It was very nice in Guru Puja time. And my daughter was so happy to get cookie every day. She used to get twice. She will go first and then go again. So she got so attached to Prabhupada because of the cookies. And then Prabhupada came in 75 and he saw the temple church on Avenue Road. And he told the devotee, this church comes on sale, please buy it. So after Prabhupada left in 75, the church came on sale. And then devotee bought it. And then they was asking my husband for donation. So we didn't have that much money, but he gave them a blank check. And that time they wrote $5,000. So somehow or other we paid, but I'm happy that we used that money for Krishna's service. And then when Prabhupada came in 76, the temple was there. And we was happy that Prabhupada's desire was fulfilled. When Prabhupada came in 76 at the airport, I didn't want to miss him, so we went to the airport to see him. And I made a garland because in my garden there was nice roses, yellow and orange, smelly roses. So I made a garland, but I wanted to make only from my garden, so it was small, maybe this small. So we went to the airport, but there was so much rush, so we couldn't offer the garland. So we rushed back to the temple, and the temple has a two-door. Avenue Road temple has two doors. Prabhupada was going this way, so my husband went that way, so he can come in front of Prabhupada. So he went with the garland, and then all the sannyasis and brahmacharis said, don't disturb Prabhupada, not here, before he entered into the temple room. So Prabhupada said, no, stop, let him offer. So he offered the garland, and then he started offering obeisances right there. And the sannyasi said, not here. And Prabhupada said, no, let him offer. So he offered the obeisances.
Which sannyasis?
Huh? I don't know, there was few sannyasis.
Go ahead, tell us.
Huh?
You don't remember?
I think it was Swaswarup Maharaj and some another Maharaj. Few Maharaj was there, and some brahmacharis. Because it was a brahmachari temple, Vishwakarma was a brahmachari, so he was like little strict. So Prabhupada, by jokingly, left up his right foot and put it on my husband's head. And then I think everything changed in his head because of Prabhupada's mercy. So it was such a good chance. So then Prabhupada went in and had a darshan of Gaurnitai, Gopinath and Jagannath. And then he took Charanamrut, and then he sit down on the Vyasasana to give a little lecture. And then he started taking out all the garland. Then I thought, he's going to take out my garland in 5 minutes. So he took out all the garland and he left mine on. So I was really moved by that Prabhupada is so merciful that he listened my prayers. And when I first saw Prabhupada coming out of the car, I feel like he is my father, and he was so humble. I never see person humble like Prabhupada, so I was so happy with that. And then Prabhupada was going to different houses for programs. But I think we were living far, so Vishwakarma was taking only nearby houses. So I was praying to Prabhupada, I wanted you to come to my house to have prasadam. So the same night he came in my dream and he ate prasadam wherever I wanted him to sit down and eat. So Prabhupada always reciprocate with me whatever desire I have. I never talked to him, but he always with me, somehow or other. So we went to Subhavila's house, and room was very small, maybe something like this. So everything was so full, and Prabhupada was going like this. Since 75, who joined? And then everybody said my husband's name, that he joined after that, like a full time. So everybody, my husband was out of the door because there was no room. So all the devotee gave him room, and he came near Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada asked him why they are not joining. Oh, when he saw him at the door, he said, oh, he's already joined, because he had a Harinam Chadar on and Tilak and Mala and everything. So Prabhupada says he's already joined. And then Prabhupada started asking why people are not joining. So everybody answered differently. Then my husband says, because they are Mayavadi, impersonalists, Prabhupada, that's why they are not joining. And then Prabhupada was laughing like this, because he always used those words, Mayavadi, impersonalist. And then Prabhupada made a joke with him. He says, he is personalist. And then Prabhupada sit down to take prasad. And it was, I think he was taking only fruits. So all the fruit was cut and plate came in front of Prabhupada, but there was one fruit was not cut, and it was chiku. So Prabhupada picked up that fruit first, and we all feel bad that we didn't cut that fruit. So Subhavila's wife says, Prabhupada, I can cut it for you. And Prabhupada says, I have 2 hands, I can cut it. And then Prabhupada cut it with his own hands, and we feel so bad that we are failed to serve Prabhupada. Maybe he was teaching us that we should not offer the whole fruit. We should cut and offer to the spiritual master and Krishna. Maybe that's what we find out. And then every time we used to run to touch Prabhupada's feet, everybody was stopping us, so we never able to have a chance to touch his feet. But at Subhavila's house, Prabhupada sit down on the ground like this in the corner, and the whole line become line to touch his feet. So I was standing on the side because I couldn't touch him that day. So, but in my heart I was praying, Prabhupada, I'm so unlucky, everybody is touching except me. I want to touch your feet too. So one of the devotees puts me in the line as soon as I prayed. And she says, I don't want to listen anything, just come in the line. And then I thought maybe Prabhupada is agreeing me to touch his feet. So that day I touched his feet, and that was the last chance I had. But I was so happy that at least he let me do it. So Prabhupada was always merciful. Whenever I have some problem, even after he left the planet, I always used to hear his tape whenever I have problem. And he always used to answer my question right away. One time my daughter went to India and I was feeling so bad. So I put his tape and he says, we are not this body, and body's expansion is not our idol. He started like that, and then all my anxiety was gone. And one time my husband was president in Vancouver, and somebody was saying something about him, so I was feeling bad. So I put Prabhupada tape on, and he says, elephant walks, and the dogs bark behind it, elephant doesn't bother. So he always answers my question right away, whenever I have a problem. So he's always with me. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Amrita Keli Prabhu. So, next speaker is Mataji Mataji. Mataji Mataji has a lot of experience with the hospice preaching. Hospice preaching is a specialized preaching, but actually it's just normal preaching because we're all on our way out. Nobody gets out of here alive. Isn't that the old saying? Hare Krishna.
So, I don't know what you would like me to speak about. I joined in Australia, and that was the beginning also of my Vyasa Jivan, my household life. And then later on I went to America for a very short time to Dallas, and then to Los Angeles. And in Los Angeles I was doing Sankirtan for about 19 years or something, and then I came to India 24 years ago, almost 24 years ago. So, would you like me to talk about the beginning, or?
Connect it as much with your experiences with Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah, it is about
Yeah.
Prabhupada.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whatever makes it connect, do it.
Okay, so I'll talk about Srila Prabhupada's preaching in Australia and his arrival, etc. So Prabhupada wanted for a long time, he wanted someone to go to Australia to preach, and I think it was Chitsukananda who tried to, but his visa was denied. So for some time it was not happening, and then finally Bali Madan came to Australia, and what's his name? Bali Madan and Chitraleka's husband?
No.
No. Chitraleka's husband, it will come. So, Bali Madan was a very strict brahmachari, so they were sent ahead. So Bali Madan started to preach, and we had not, this was in 1970, we had not done much more book distribution in the movement in general, and it was mainly BTG distribution at that time. So he also was going out just for Sankirtan, Harinam Sankirtan, and then he tried to get some speaking engagements in the universities, and of course he had to also look for a place to stay, and he was staying in a, he was finding out that because there was no money practically, he was finding out that there was a burnt out house or abandoned house, and he was staying in that house and conducted his activities from there on. And then I'm trying to find his name. This one of the Prabhupada level here. So far as for now, I will address him as I will talk to him about Chitraleka's husband. So Chitraleka's husband came. He had just been married to Chitraleka in Los Angeles, I think. And he was sent by Prabhupada to go and help Bali Madan in Australia. So he went, both of them are excellent preachers, but one just married and the other one a very strict brahmachari. And both excellent preachers. And they went into the street, did Sankirtan together, gave out some leaflets, and gathered a few people and would speak at their house at first. But it was really a little bit austere for Chitraleka's husband.
His name is
What?
Upendra.
Upendra, right, Upendra, thank you. And so Upendra was a very dynamic personality and preacher, and he attracted a lot of people, so did Bali Madan. And so I'm actually from Germany, and I came at the beginning of 1970 to Australia. I was a nurse, and I met the devotees in Sydney. I met the devotees in Sydney round about, I think it was November. And at that time, Bali Madan and Upendra had already gotten someone that they preached to in Bondi Junction, that they preached to, and who had become devotees, and they were later called Charu Prabhu and Vaibhavi, the boyfriend-girlfriend. So when Prabhupada didn't like this boyfriend-girlfriend situations, so they were given the choice to remain brahmacharis or brahmacharinis or get married. So they chose to become brahmachari, brahmacharini. So Vaibhavi was like an artist, a fantastic artist, and she took Vaibhavi. And she made, later on we moved from Bondi Junction to Paddington. In Paddington we had a storefront just like in New York they had, so they also called it the Evangelist's Gift. And they had Radha Krishna in the window, she painted them in the window, and around them as a halo, a Hare Krishna mantra. So that was very beautiful, and Prabhupada really liked it. So, and Charu became actually, even though he had just joined, he was not initiated yet. Bali Madan was called to become a GBC in the Pacific area, like Japan, and he started preaching in Japan with, he started preaching in Japan, and then Charu became the temple president, even though he was not initiated yet. So he wrote a letter to Srila Prabhupada. I'm here at the temple in the capacity of the temple president, and sometimes the newspaper agents are coming and they're wanting to interview me, but I don't have a spiritual name. My name is Christopher Warden. And he asked if he could get initiation. So Prabhupada was very happy to give him initiation by mail. So he became Charu Das. And so then he was preaching very nicely also. So one time I met Vaibhavi in the streets. I was the first time downtown Sydney, and I was dressed in jeans like a teenager, in jeans and t-shirt, and was traveling. And I had an old police station wagon that I was driving. So then when I met her, I didn't know the downtown of Sydney. So I gave a donation, and I got a BTG magazine, and Vaibhavi was very happy with me that I gave a donation, a nice donation, and so she gave me a bag of peanuts. And so I was thinking, oh, maybe I'm looking like a traveler and I look hungry or so. So I said, no, you can keep it. You can give it to someone else. So she said, no, you don't understand. This is called prasadam. Prasadam means it is holy food offered to the Lord, and you become purified by eating it. Then I said, okay, I'll take it. So then I took the magazine and the peanuts, and I sat down in the park and read the whole book, the whole BTG, back cover to cover. And I come from a Christian family. My father was a priest, and so I was always interested in God. And when I read this magazine, and every other word was about God, Krishna, but so much more detail was given there. I became so fascinated, and I wanted to know more about this. So I was looking around the street where she was, but I couldn't find her because that was my first downtown Sydney. So I had, so I prayed to God, my dear Lord, please let me find them again. I want to know more about this, about you. And so then I came to the street where they were distributing, but the men came at that time. They had changed shifts. So Charu was there. So I didn't tell him I had already gotten a magazine. I was so enthusiastic. I was asking him, can I move in with you people? And he looked up and down at me and he said, we're not a youth hostel. So then I became a little humble and I said, well, do you have meetings? Can I come to your meetings? He said, yeah, sure, come. And he gave me an address, and so I came regularly. And then sometime later, Bali Madan came back because Charu had actually written to Srila Prabhupada to come to Australia. But he was a young devotee himself and didn't really know. He was thinking like in terms of like what great business people do, like the higher you up on the ladder, the less you interact with the grassroots, the simple people. So he was thinking, oh, he's such a busy person, he's the leader of the society, I'll invite him, but he probably will say no, and he will probably decline, But not at all. Prabhupada was so happy. He was at that time in Bombay. You must have heard about the Kosmaidan festival, in which Shamsundar, Malati and all the devotees, Prabhupada's very first devotees from San Francisco and Yamuna and Gurudas, etc., they were all there. And in that Kosmaidan festival, so Prabhupada answered, yes, immediately I will come after this Kosmaidan festival. I'm going to, I think he was on his way to Los Angeles or something, and he said he would be coming by to Australia, stop in Australia and visit us. And there was Vegavan and Padmavati. I mean, I don't remember what their names were before, but Vegavan was a Swedish devotee, Swedish person, and Padmavati was an Australian girl. And both of them came through India. They were traveling towards Sweden, via Europe, etc. So, but they met the devotees in India. They hadn't seen them previously in Australia, maybe, or something, and but not gotten any contact properly, So in India, I met these devotees, and Prabhupada was living at that time in Akash Ganga. We didn't have the temple there yet, and it was just an apartment building, and so Prabhupada, so they joined, and Prabhupada did their marriage and their initiations in the Kosmaidan festival. And it was a largely attended festival, like 10,000 people were there. So it was an attraction for these people to see Prabhupada's Western disciples. And Padmavati was beautiful in a red sari with golden border dressed, and she had blonde hair and blue eyes, and so was Vegavan, also very blonde. And so it was very attractive for them to see how Prabhupada performed their Vedic marriage, and how they got the names, their new names, and how they became disciples, and they were enthusiastically dancing on the stage and also distributing prasadam afterwards. So it was very attractive to the public, So, so then after the Kosmaidan festival, in Australia, we were going on Sankirtan every day, but it was Harinam Sankirtan, and we were also distributing BTGs along with that. So an Indian man approached us at that time, and he was surprised to see Western people in Indian clothes with dhotis and saris and tilak, and he was so surprised. And when he approached us, we were giving him the abridged Bhagavad Gita, and he was so impressed, that he told us, I'm going to India after some time and I will send you some deities, because we didn't have any deities at the time. And in fact, it was, like I told you, it was a storefront, and there were shelves, and we turned the shelves into a mandir. We put curtains around it, and we had the parampara all ulta, the wrong side, and but somehow that was and there was no Vyasasan yet, Prabhupada hadn't come, and in fact the full morning program was not established yet, so we didn't even have Guru Puja or anything. We were just reading from the Bhagavad Gita, and we had whatever tapes we had from, the Shamasundas, Yamunas, and their tapes with George Harris and all these tapes we had, and maybe a few lecture tapes that we heard over and over and over again. And we were always hoping to have older God brothers come to, and God sisters come to visit us, so that we can learn more about Krishna consciousness. So, but we were happy and enthusiastic with what we knew and what we learned. So then this man promised to send these deities. So when we were still in Bonner Junction, he was coming already. Then later on we moved to Paddington. He had gone to India, and he actually sent the deities. We totally forgot about it. We still didn't know about the Indian culture that much, you know. We didn't know about deity worship and all these things. We didn't know much. And so we'd forgotten about it, and we did not leave our address at the old address. So the parcel arrived in immigration, and they contacted the landlord, and the landlord said, we don't know where they are. So the package was sent back, to the disappointment of this, I think his name was, I don't know if his name was Patel, I can't remember, but fortunately he was from Bombay, and he saw the advertisement, Indian Swami with Western disciples, you know, Cosmopolitan Festival, etc. And I think the address of Akash Ganga was given at the bottom, so he was going to Akash Ganga, and he met Prabhupada, and he told him all about, I bought these deities and I sent them to Australia, and they were sent back to me. And then Prabhupada told him they have moved to another location. So he gave the deities to Prabhupada. So they presided over the Cosmopolitan Festival as the deities in the yagya and in, you know, like that. And he called them Radha Gopinath. So after this Cosmopolitan Festival was over, Prabhupada planned to come to Australia. So he took the deities actually with him. So Bali Madan was there, and Vegavan were there. And Prabhupada said Padmavati, Vegavan's wife, should stay back with Mataji and learn how to cook, and after some time we would call her also to Australia. Actually, at first, Vegavan was saying to Prabhupada, but we wanted to go to Sweden. And Prabhupada said, better is you come with me to Australia because I need you there, you know. So then he agreed to go back. He just came from Australia to go to Sweden, to his country. But so he agreed with Prabhupada that he would come. So, but before Prabhupada actually arrived, there was some confusion. You know, somehow Bali Madan came first once again to see if we were ready to receive Prabhupada, if we had, you know, because we were so young devotees, we didn't know much how to receive a spiritual master. And so he came, and at that time he was also preaching to me, and he's, you know, like I told you, Chewy wouldn't let me move in right away, so I was still living on the outside, still working a job, a half-day job, and the rest of the day was in the temple, you know, helping out with whatever needed to be done, or going on Sankirtan, etc. So he asked, you're already doing everything, you're chanting 60 rounds, you're vegetarian, you're doing everything already, why don't you move into the temple? And I said, oh, I thought I can't. And so he said, no, our Guru Maharaj is coming now, so you should move into the temple, you can help out full time, give up your job and like that. So I did. And he said, do you know how to surrender to Krishna? And I said, no. And he said, well, do you have any money or any possessions, any money or something? I said, yeah, a little bit. I'm from Germany, so I have, you know, some money to go back to Germany after some time, and a little money I've saved up. So he said, well, surrendering to Krishna means to give whatever you have, to give yourself and whatever you have to Krishna, to Krishna's lotus feet. So I agreed, and he took me to the bank, we closed down the account, and I think my money went to either to facilitate Prabhupada while he was in Australia, or for the ticket, one of the tickets. And so then everything was kind of ready for Prabhupada to come, and Bali Madan went back to India and brought Prabhupada to Australia after some days. And Vegavan was coming, and his visa had actually expired. He had totally, in the rush to get Prabhupada's visa together, he had forgotten about his own visa. And so they came to Singapore, they stopped in Singapore, and the officials were telling him, but your visa is expired, you can't go. I mean, we let you go, but we warn you, if you arrive there, the immigration people may turn you back, you may have to go back, you know. So he said, okay. So then they went to Australia, and Prabhupada went first to immigrate, through immigrations. Bali Madan and Prabhupada went first. And so he had a friendly talk with the immigration officer, and they were laughing like this. And the devotees on the outside, they could see Prabhupada. And but as he went through the immigration, he stopped there, and the devotees really did not know outside why he was not coming further, why he was what was holding him up. And later on we found out, you know, Bhagavan didn't have his visa. So then he went through. So the officer was saying, "Where's your visa?" He said, "Oh, my visa? Oh, it's expired." And then he remembered, oh, he just got married to Padmavati, who was an Australian citizen. He said, "But my wife, we got married, my wife is Australian." And he said, "Well, where's your marriage certificate?" He said, "Well, I don't have a marriage certificate, but I got married in India, the Indian way, and I have the photos I can show you." So he showed the photos, and in the photo, that immigration officer saw Srila Prabhupada's picture. He said, "Yes, he's my priest, and who performed our wedding." And the immigration officer was asking, "Is he the one that just went through?" And he said, "Yes, that is our priest, our guru." And he said, "Okay," and he put a stamp, "Indefinite stay. You can stay as long as you want in Australia." So that was contributing to the fact that Prabhupada was so friendly with the immigration officer that he felt, okay, I can trust him, and he let his disciple go through. So in Australia, Prabhupada, so as I said, he brought the deities back, Radha Gopinath. There were small deities like this size, and Bhagavan carried Radharani, and they were wrapped in a cloth, and Bali Madan had the other one in his arm. So they went like that. I think nowadays you probably wouldn't be able to do that, to take Radha Krishna deities, but through the immigration and through the, you know, customs and whatever. Anyway, so, but in those days, actually many deities, even big-sized deities, were brought that way to Africa, like Madhavisa was telling about that, how he brought some big deities to, I think Durban, I think it was Durban. Nairobi, you know, yeah, you're from Nairobi. So, anyway, so they brought them through, and there was no objection. And then Prabhupada was there for maybe 2-3 weeks or something, and he gave initiation to everyone, whoever was there. I was only about like half a year in the movement, and there were others that were shorter also in the movement, but he was very kind. He gave initiation to all of us. So in preparation of we were, in those days the communication was telegrams, so we were informed that they will be bringing deities with us and how big they are, and that we should get everything ready for them, because Prabhupada would install them. So we did not know how to get everything together. The Bali Madan had helped us a little bit. So then finally, in a very simple way, Prabhupada performed the installation of Radha Gopinath, and I was able to sew for the deities, and they had like the typical Indian deities with their clothes already on them, so it was a little more difficult to sew for them, but somehow we managed. And we had also a wig, and the wig was over the crown, put over the crown, and then a small crown in front, like that. And there were newspaper reporters, and we got initiation. And I got initiation and got married at the same time. And my husband was from Los Angeles. He joined in Laguna Beach, and he later on lived in the temple in Los Angeles and was trained up by Shilavati as a pujari. And he was sent to Australia to help as a pujari. And by Bobby and him, and I also was helping with the deity worship. So he had built a mandir quite high, and the deities were sitting up high. And Bobby organized all the ingredients for the yajna, and she remembered that Bali Madani had told her, had sent her quickly to get some Brahmin threads, because my husband was first initiated, and Sharu was, as I told earlier, he was initiated by male, by Prabhupada, but he was going to give him second initiation, and Bababi was getting first and second initiation so that she could also do deity worship. So she was sent to get Brahmin threads. So she had never, so Bali Madan took his Brahmin thread off so that she could see what it looks like, you know, and how there are six strands tied together, 1 6 here and 1 6 there, and then together it becomes a Brahmin thread. And she made one more for herself also, which she didn't realize. I think it was not even part of the Vedic culture for women to have the Gayatri like that. I think in those days, you know, in the Vedic culture, they got the Gayatri mantra through their husband, something like that. But they weren't wearing the sacred thread, that was only for the men. So anyway, we did all kinds of little mistakes. And but Prabhupada was actually quite pleased. But at the same time, some years later, he was telling us about the deities, that he was in front of the deities. And you have to remember, he was had already 5 years of experience with Western devotees Western people becoming devotees, many of them hippies, etc. And they're, being in the mode of passion, being in the beginning, very unstable. You know, they could do anything, anytime, leave also, or, you know. So he was in anxiety about the deities. You know, so he was praying to the deities, my dear Lord Gopinath, my dear Srimati Radharani, please, these mlechas, my young disciples, I have to leave him here now because I have to go on preaching to other countries. Please, you are the Paramatma in the heart of all living entities. You instruct them so that they can learn how to please you. So some years later he told us like how he had prayed. Okay, so that was the first meeting with Prabhupada in Australia, and he was very kind to us. Every year he became more pleased how we were worshipping the deities, how we were going out in Sankirtan and introducing Krishna consciousness to the Australian public. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. We'll hear the rest of it after Prabhupada's disappearance day, along with another 10 Prabhupada disciple women and other devotees. Thank you very much. I haven't heard so many details about Australia. Our third speaker will be Rasa Sundri, who's originally from Argentina, and her husband was the first Mexican devotee. And we will have Rohini Nandan Prabhu, who will speak directly after, but he will translate for her because it's easier for her to speak in Spanish. Hare Krishna.
Conocí a los devotos de Krishna en el 72.
I met the devotees of Krishna in 1972.
De hecho, hacía apenas unos meses que habían llegado ahí. Apenas tenían
They had just arrived a few
una
months
casa
ago.
donde se habían instalado, ni siquiera tenían deidades.
They had a very small house where they had installed themselves and they didn't have any deities.
Prabhupada había enviado a un sannyasa.
Prabhupada had sent a sannyasi at the time called Hanuman.
Y a Prakasananda, que había sido el primer devoto que había hecho en México.
And Prakasananda, that was the first Mexican devotee, her husband.
Luego fue
After was his husband.
estaban los encontré en las calles del centro de Buenos Aires haciendo Harinam Sankirtan.
I found the devotees doing Harinam Sankirtan in Buenos Aires, in Argentina.
Y la primera impresión que tuve cuando los vi era que sí fue asombrosa.
My first impression was very astonishing.
Imaginé que venían de otro mundo.
I imagined that they were coming from another world.
Ciertamente venían del mundo espiritual.
Certainly they were coming from the spiritual world.
Enseguida me atrajo y
I
me
felt
facilitaron
very attracted to them.
para
They
leer porque ellos estaban
gave me a
distribuyendo.
book because they were doing book
Fácil viaje a
distribution.
otros planetas, todavía me recuerdo.
Easy Journey to Other Planets.
Lo leí y lo releí muchas
I
veces.
read it so many
Quedé
times
identificada con el mensaje que
and I
había
identified myself with the
en
message
este
that
libro, ¿no?
was in that book.
Porque en ese tiempo estaba yo joven, tenía como 17 años.
Because at that time I was 17
Estaba
years old.
así en una época un poco tormentosa,
I was in a
teniendo preguntas
very
dentro de
difficult
mí.
time asking myself.
Y en ese libro encontré
And
que
in that book
todas las preguntas que yo tenía
I
eran
found that
contestadas
all the questions that I had before, they were answered.
de una manera así muy clara
In a very clear way.
y que yo podía entenderlas, ¿no?
And that I could understand them very
Y que
easily.
entendía que lo que decía ese libro
And
era la verdad.
what was said in that book was fully
Lo que
the
Prabhupada
truth.
estaba diciendo
What
en ese
Prabhupada
libro
was saying
era
in
la
that book
verdad.
was the full truth.
Sí, quise saber más o conocer del autor de ese
I
libro.
wanted to know more about the author of this book.
Entonces me acerqué al templo y comencé a ir
I started to visit the temple
así, casi seguido, ¿no?
very often.
Y en una clase el Maharaj dijo que
And in a class, Maharaj
cualquiera
said
que
that
quisiera
anybody
podía quedarse a vivir ahí.
Anybody
y
who
seguir-
wanted to live there could
y
be living there and
seguir
stay there
los principios.
and follow the principles.
Y yo sentí que eso yo quería para mí,
And I
para
felt
siempre.
in my heart that I
para
wanted
siempre.
that for the rest of my life.
Sí, que ese era mi lugar.
That was my place.
Entonces ya comencé a ir más regularmente
Then I
y
visit more
pregunté
often and I
que
did
cuándo yo
questions.
podría, si pudiera conocer o encontrarme con el autor de
How
ese
to meet
libro.
this author of the book.
Me dijeron que posiblemente alguna vez vendría.
They told me that possibly he would come to Argentina.
Lamentablemente
But
Argentina es muy lejos de aquí.
Argentina was
Cuando
very
uno viene
far.
acá se da cuenta lo lejos que
When you
está
come here, you see how far it is.
de allá, ¿no? Entonces, me quedé a vivir en el templo, hacíamos
I stayed to living in the temple and we were doing Harinam and so.
y en el 75,
In
cuando
75,
Prabhupada vino a México,
when
fue a
Prabhupada
México,
came to second time to Mexico,
luego de eso fue a Venezuela, Caracas.
he went to Venezuela and to Caracas.
En un grupo de sankirtaneros,
As a group of Sankirtan devotees,
incluyéndome yo estaba también en la lista,
including myself,
iríamos
we were
a ver
ready
a
to go to
Srila
Srila
Prabhupada
Prabhupada
en Caracas.
in Venezuela, Caracas.
Sí, ya tenía yo ticket y
I had everything ready, my ticket was ready.
para este entonces ya tenía Mandali, iría con él.
For that time I already had a little boy, my son, small, Mandali Badra.
Pero, o sea, un grupo grande de sankirtaneros había ido, el presupuesto del templo estaba ya muy reducido y tenían,
The temple money was very much, was shortened and
sí,
they had no money
tenían muchas deudas,
and they had many debts,
sobre todo la cuenta de la luz.
mainly the light bill, the electricity bill.
Entonces el presidente del templo y mi esposo decidieron
Then my husband and the temple president
que
decided that
mejor renunciara yo, sería
I
mejor
should renounce the
renunciar
idea
a ir
of going to see Srila
a ir
Prabhupada.
a ver a Srila Prabhupada. Y con mucho dolor tuve que hacer eso.
And with a lot of pain I had to do that
Sintiéndome
sacrifice,
muy desafortunada y
feeling myself very unfortunate.
pensando, o sea, cuando estaba en Sankirtan, pensando lo felices que estarían
And thinking when I was in Sankirtan how happy the devotees were with Srila
estando con
Prabhupada,
Srila Prabhupada, ¿no? Cómo se sentirían, qué
How they
él
were
estaría
feeling,
predicando,
how
cómo
he
serían
was
sus
preaching,
clases,
how
sus
was
caminatas.
his classes, his morning
Lloraba
walks.
y lloraba ya
I
en
was
Sankirtan.
crying and crying and crying.
Y así fue como,
So that's the way that
sí, la manera en que
in separation.
en separación fue mi relación con
That
Srila
was my
Prabhupada.
relationship with
Cuando
Srila
los
Prabhupada.
devotos fueron,
When the
yo
devotees,
envié una carta
when
con
I
ellos para
sent
Srila
a
Prabhupada
letter for Srila Prabhupada
pidiéndole que
asking
por
him
favor me
to
aceptara
please accept me
como su discípulo.
as her disciple.
Y en
as
sus
his
regresos ellos trajeron una carta de Srila Prabhupada con
On their way
un
back,
nombre
they brought
espiritual,
my spiritual name,
una foto muy bella de él
a very beautiful
predicando
picture of Prabhupada preaching
sobre la colina de los Chaguaramos en el templo
in
de...
a hill called Chawaramus in a
Me
temple.
recuerdo bien así, estaba el sol iluminándolo todo y
The
se
sun
veía
was
Prabhupada.
very bright and illuminating Srila Prabhupada.
Aún conservo esa foto
I still have that picture.
hermosa, fue como pues mi premio de consolación,
That was my,
¿no?
how's
O
that
mi
name?
trofeo de
My
Sankirtan.
trophy of Sankirtan or something like that.
Por eso no, en realidad yo no tengo memoria con Srila
I
Prabhupada
don't really have
físicamente,
physically memories with
pero,
Prabhupada.
pero sentí que cuando envió mi nombre espiritual, la iniciación
But I
era
feel that
como
when he
nada
sent
más
my name
una
with
formalidad,
the
no un
initiation,
ritual, porque en realidad yo ya lo había aceptado como mi maestro
I already had
espiritual y él
accepted
a mí,
him, and so I felt it was only a
como que esa
formality because I had
relación
accepted him
ya
already in my heart.
estaba.
It was already there.
Y en otra ocasión también, esa fue la primera, pero hubieron dos
Another
ocasiones.
time,
En el 76,
in
luego,
76,
fue cuando la ocupación militar en Argentina
was the military occupation of Argentina.
cerraron el templo.
They closed down the temple.
Entonces todos tuvimos que salir,
We all
llevarnos
had
las deidades,
to take the
porque para
deities
ese
with us and
entonces ya
leave the temple.
teníamos un gornitai instalado
Because
que
by that time
adorábamos
we
en
already
el
had
altar.
Gornitai installed in the altar.
Y entonces tuvimos que salir unos para Brasil,
We had to go some to Brazil and others
Brasil, Perú,
to
así,
Peru to
diferentes.
different.
Pero en ese
Countries.
entonces como no teníamos lugar donde estar los argentinos,
Because the Argentinas,
Había
we
una
had no
lista,
place to stay anywhere.
había una lista de 10 devotos
There was
que
a
iban a
list of
venir
10 devotees that they
aquí a India a encontrarse con Srila
were
Prabhupada.
supposed to come to India to meet Srila Prabhupada.
En ese tiempo ya no estamos en
At that time, we heard that Prabhupada was already not very well of health.
Pero también en esa época yo ya estaba embarazada de mi segundo
But
niño.
I was already pregnant from my
También
second
perdí
boy.
esa oportunidad.
So that I lost also that opportunity.
Sí, fue la segunda.
That was the second chance that I lost.
Sí. Así por eso siento así poquito celo cuando oigo
That's why I feel sometimes a
cuando
little
mis
jealousness
hermanas espirituales
when my god
cuentan
sisters can say
sus
some
experiencias
experiences or
con
tell some
Srila
experiences with
Prabhupada,
Srila
qué tan
Prabhupada.
amoroso
How
ha
loving
sido su relación con él, cómo,
the relationship was with him,
cómo él les enseñó, ¿no? De una manera
how he
tan
taught them
amorosa, así
in a very
como,
loving manner,
como un padre, ¿no?
as a loving
Un padre
father
cariñoso enseña a sus
teaches
hijos, ¿no?
their children.
Sí. Esas fueron mis experiencias.
Those were her experiences.
Y usted, ¿cómo se en el 75 sí estaba en el templo, usted
So
todavía
all
fue
you
más
devotees who think that you missed the opportunity to see Srila Prabhupada, just imagine that this wonderful devotee never met Srila Prabhupada. And every opportunity she had, always somehow Krishna kept her separated. So she lived her whole life in separation with Srila Prabhupada. So this is the what is in her heart, and what should be in your heart also. Hare Krishna.
Siempre me pregunto
Always I ask myself,
qué habría sido de mi vida si
what could be of my
si
life
él no hubiera ido hasta allá
if
por
he
mí,
did
porque
not
aunque él no fue
went all the way
personalmente,
until there.
o sea, no
Although
fue
he didn't go
en
personally
forma física,
in a
pero
physical manner,
sí fue en su mensaje, ¿no?
his message reached there.
Fueron sus devotos los que él empoderó.
The devotees that
y
were
a
empowered
predicar.
to preach.
Cuando uno está acá en la grandeza de su misión,
So you,
porque
in that way you can see the greatness of
ve
his
cómo
mission,
todo todavía sigue
because you
creciendo
can see
como,
how the movement still
en
grows
onda expansiva,
in
¿no?
a
que
expansive way,
todavía no se acaba, ¿no?
and this is not stopping
esa
and not
potencia,
finished.
esa energía
That power, that potency
que él ha dejado, ¿no?
that he has established
que él
or
ha,
left,
de la manera en que ha empoderado a sus devotos, que
the
todavía
way that he has empowered
actualmente
his
lo
devotees,
sigue haciendo, ¿no?
and still he's doing
Todavía,
it.
o sea, todavía está aquí, ¿no?
He's still with us.
Y yo me puedo sentir, o cualquiera de los que ahora son iniciados también se pueden sentir como
And
yo,
we can,
porque
many of the devotees that are initiated now,
aunque han
they
sido,
can feel like that too.
iniciados por otro
That although
gurú
they've been
que
initiated
ha
by
dejado,
some other guru,
existe esa misma relación.
that relationship remains there.
Y también me pregunto cada vez si realmente
I also ask
estará
myself
complacido con mi
if he is
servicio, cómo
been, every time if he's
puedo
pleased with
hacer
my
para
service and how can I
complacerlo.
do to please him better.
Oro
Every
a
day
todos por bendiciones para
I
que
pray to all of you for your blessings
complacer a Srila
to
Prabhupada
please
en
Srila
mi
Prabhupada
servicio.
in my service.
Hare Krishna. Sí, usted.
Thank you, Rasa Sundari Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
She's a very nice devotee that has been engaged for many years serving the deities in Mexico very steadily, although do not live in directing the temple in the late years. Every day she goes to Mangalartik and to dress the deities. So it's very special.
Hare Krishna.
So I will just continue with.
Yeah, so we have two more speakers. This is
Yeah.
Dr. Rohini Nanandas, who has been president of many temples all over South America and the United States and other places, even at the risk of his life. And the other speaker is the president of our Hamburg temple, Jagoranga Prabhu. So as long as he's sitting there, we'll hear from Rohini Nanandas.
I'll be short. So.
Thank you.
So, as as she was saying, I thought it was very proper to explain the way everything happened in Mexico. In 68, Chandravali, a devotee, a female devotee, she had a Mexican relatives living in the States, was a brahmacharini, and she wrote to Prabhupada that she wanted to open a temple in Mexico City, which was one of the biggest cities around the world. And she presented the first translation of the Bhagavad Gita in Spanish. So Prabhupada was very pleased with this, although she wrote back to her that she wasn't ready for that because she was a brahmacharini and she should get some brahmacharinis to go to Mexico after a few years. But in 71, she asked permission to Srila Prabhupada to marry Chitsukananda Das. And he also spoke very well Spanish because he was Puerto Rican, from a Puerto Rican background. So when this happened, immediately Prabhupada saw the opportunity and told Chandravali that now is the time that you should go to Mexico. I'm very pleased that you will marry Chitsukananda, get other Spanish-speaking devotees, and just go to Mexico. So they bought a van and they drove from Los Angeles with two other American devotees, Bhaktajan and someone else that I don't remember. And they met her husband, Bhakta Francisco. After very few days of being there, Prabhupada actually asked Chitsukananda to translate BTG also. And they had a BTG with 4 pages only that they were distributing. And after a few weeks, they met a very nice person that was a race car pilot, and he read this BTG, so he became supporter of the temple. He wasn't living in Mexico City, but he really, like probably a devotee from past life, because he started to support the devotees and send them money. And when Prabhupada came for first time in 72, he paid for the tickets of all the devotees and offered his house in a place that is called Puerto Vallarta, where Prabhupada rests when on his way back to Los Angeles. It's described how they went to the university and they got people from all this called the attention of Srila Prabhupada in Mexico. He mentioned that actually in letters to Chitsukananda and other devotees, that the devotees in Mexico were not coming only from hippie families or from hippie background, but they were from all stratus of life, Many of them were coming from the university. When Prabhupada was there in 72, some very funny things happened. First of all, the devotees were very new, and he gave initiation to first Pushta Krishna Maharaj. Hanuman already was there. This sannyasi was one of the first sannyasis. So he came in advance to arrange everything for Prabhupada, but the devotees had maybe some of them 2-3 weeks in the temple for the time when Prabhupada came. And they thought that no one was ready for initiation, but Prabhupada really wanted to have devotees initiated in Mexico. And he gave initiation to 17 people. They had no tulsi beads or japas, so he told them to go to the market and buy whatever they can get similar to tulsi beads. And they bought beads of plastic and they were colorful. So they gave neck beads, colorful neck beads, and plastic japa beads, mala beads. That was very, very funny. And also when Prabhupada came into the airport for first time, the devotees, Mexicans, they are famous to be always late, and Prabhupada was sitting like this in his walking stick, waiting for the devotees to come, and the car never arrived, it was late. So some people from the Indian embassy was there, and they went to give obeisances to Prabhupada. and they asked him if they could take him and where to take him, so they took him to the temple. For that time, they managed, 3-4 devotees with the help also of her husband. They managed to rent a very beautiful, expensive house, which is just 3 blocks from the president's house in a very residential area. Even now it's like that. And it's very close to a very important park which has historical background with the Aztecs. It's the biggest park in Mexico City. Prabhupada walked there many times in that park. And when they went there also, her husband was painting the temple room, which was very late. When Prabhupada came to give obeisances to the Panchatattva picture, the paint was fresh. So they had to put a shutter for him to not to paint or stain his clothes. So his shadow was, or his form was marked on the floor there. That was also very funny.
Who's got that show?
La chada que pusieron para que no se manchara. I don't know. They lost it probably. I never saw it. But when he reached that place, Prabhupada was really happy. He opened his eyes looking at the dome. This is like a very old, very well-built house. It was an embassy of Ethiopia before. And somehow or other, whoever knows Chitsukananda knows that he can do amazing things. So he managed, without any money, to rent a house, which was in one of the richest areas of Mexico. And Prabhupada asked them to please keep this house forever. And still now, although with some problems and legal things, we still have that house in Mexico City, very close to this park. Also, he went to Prabhupada reached all different type of people, because on his first trip he was interviewed by the main reporter of Mexico. This was a program called 24 Hours, and this guy has millions of people watching every day in the evening. So the devotees came to his TV program with the Vyasasana. That was very funny that always the devotees were carrying a Vyasasana. That's why sometimes they were late probably, because the Vyasasana wasn't light. It was like we still have that. It's like a marble stab, and very heavy wood, and they were carrying it, and they carried it to the TV program. So, and all the devotees were next to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was singing. My father saw that program. Yes, it's the same Vyasasana thing. There is 2 Vyasasans there. So this reporter was extremely pious actually. He was from Jewish background, and he addressed Srila Prabhupada as a great personality. Actually, he had on Saturdays a special section for like honorable people, and he introduced Prabhupada, as a great personality, a great monk, and started to do a few questions. And he asked Mexico, he asked him to bless all Mexicans. And Prabhupada gave blessings through TV to millions of people. And he took Prabhupada's hand like this, and after that, the devotees that were there, and Antacharya and others, he cried. He was very touched by Prabhupada's presentation, which was very simple. After the TV program, because Prabhupada had preached that this was not a religion and people from every religious background was there, he asked directly one devotee, where do you from, like from what religious background do you come from? And he said Christian, the other said Jewish, and Anantacharya said, I am a Vaishnava. And Prabhupada didn't like that, he made a face to him like, what are you talking about? After that, they also went to a place called Cuernavaca, which is at that time was very high class city with most of the rich people. So from the area had house there, and important people from all over the world, and they gave him the public plaza. So hundreds, probably thousands of people saw, because this was on Sunday and was, where the people goes to walk in Sunday in the evening, and Prabhupada spoke to so many people. Prabhupada was so merciful that a drunkard came to him, after he spoke, and he was, like this. And then Hanuman, whoever knew Hanuman was like a very strong person, and he was tough, so he would push everybody not to come close to Prabhupada. So when the drunkard was approaching Prabhupada, he was going to push him, and Prabhupada told him not to do it. So he allowed him to come, and he said, "Please let me see the Lama." He confused him with a Buddhist monk or something like that. But Prabhupada gave blessings, and he was very respectful. The Mexicans, they kneel down to the priest, or to the religious people. Also, he went to one of the to a casino where they lent him, or where they gave a salon to preach to very high-class Mexicans. He didn't have to have any translation because everyone was very well educated. And this is also very important for Latin America, because Prabhupada was the first book distributor in Spanish language, because they didn't have any books. So they brought the first book at that time, and Prabhupada saw it. He stopped speaking when he was talking to the people. He gave a bright smile, and then he started to sell the book for 20 pesos, which is like $20, at that time. And he kept the change. He didn't give up change. Probably that cost maybe 1 peso, and they gave him 20 pesos, and he took everything and kept it. And then someone said that, Rangovinda asked someone asked him if he could sign the books. And then he agreed, and he signed the books for everybody, for all the people. Also, a very interesting pastime related to Christianity happened there. While from the plaza to the time that he was going in the evening to the casino, they gave him a room in an expensive house, very nice house in Cuernavaca. And after half an hour that he was in his room, he called the servant, and he was crying. And he pointed at a Christian cross. In Mexico, the crosses are not like in other places in the world, that is only the cross. But this is like a real body, shape, with blood and thorns, Christ with a crown of thorns bleeding. That's the Mexican tradition. So Prabhupada saw that, and he said to the devotee that if someone shoots me in the street with bullets and I am bleeding, would you like to worship me like that? And the devotee says, "Of course not, Prabhupada." And he says, "Take away this from here." And he didn't stay, actually. He was going to stay there overnight. And because of that, he didn't stay in that house. So that was also very interesting. And then he came back to Mexico City and had the program where hundreds of people were there, maybe 300-400 people was there already, just in very few time, very powerful mark, And he had the class, and all the Mexicans, they wanted to have a personal contact with Prabhupada. So Chitsukananda told Prabhupada once he was over in his room after the class, that they wanted to come to his room and have a personal moment with him. So he allowed all the people, not only the devotees, but all the guests and everybody, to come inside his room, and one by one in line they came to Prabhupada, kneel down, and Prabhupada would put his hand in their heads, and that was very special too. He was there only 5 days, the first time, and then went back through Puerto Vallarta, where there is also a very, a famous story about the mosquito that Chitsukananda told, "Oh, Prabhupada, the mosquitoes are not biting you, they are respectful of pure devotees." Prabhupada said, "Yes, but in Bombay they are not like that." And in Puerto Vallarta was the house of this Daniel Partida that paid for the tickets for all the devotees, to come to Mexico, and he became a big supporter. His husband actually lived there for many years in that place. He donated actually that for an ashram. Prabhupada wanted to make sure. Prabhupada actually said in that place that was the second most beautiful place in the world.
Which was?
Puerto Vallarta. It's a paradise, like a paradise. This place was very in the mountains, very special place. And he said that the first place, the most beautiful place in the world is where Bhaktivinoda Thakur had born. But this place in Mexico was the second. So. And her husband left his body in that spot, in that place. Anyway, I don't want to take much time because probably.
Well, tell about the university preaching.
Oh yeah, that is also interesting. He also, I forgot, he went also to the university, and he went to the Masonic lodge, where the Masons are very powerful in Mexico. They are all the governors and all the, the president. To be a president in Mexico, you have to belong to the Masonry. And they invited him and they gave him honorary degree, after they heard what he presented. And also there, I think was Nantacharya, or there is a funny story that because the first books were there and he wanted, a rich lady came to him to buy, she asked the biggest book that you have. And he wanted to give, but he wanted Prabhupada to see. But Prabhupada was singing with the eyes closed, And 3 times he took back the book, from the lady, because he was looking at Prabhupada, like he could be seen by Prabhupada. But Prabhupada physically never saw him. But then he described that after that, Prabhupada came to the table where the book distribution was there, and he hit 3 times with his stick and pat him in the back like that, So his realization was that Prabhupada knew, his Trikalagyan, of course. And in university also, two very particular things. One, he went to the architecture, school in Mexico City, and some students were opposing first, because this was a religious thing and they didn't like it. But when Prabhupada was there, everyone kept quiet and they listened. He won their heart. A devotee is a person that became a devotee after, at the time of questions, said, Swami, do you really see God? And Prabhupada laughed, and he asked him, would you believe me if I tell you that? And the devotee is now a devotee, he answered, yes, I would believe you. And he said, yes, I can see God. But you also can see God. And he quoted Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santasa Deva, that verse, And another person after asked, because Prabhupada spoke a little bit about, dogs and, like sometimes Prabhupada used to do. And he said, what is wrong with being a dog? And then Prabhupada asked that person, you sure you don't mind to be a dog? And he said, no, I would not mind to be a dog. I would be happy to be a dog. And then Prabhupada said, then be a dog. Let me. No problem, be a dog in your next life, So that's also a very unusual story. And that devotee was touched and became a devotee years after, and all their family, not the one that became a dog in their next life, but the one that asked him if he could see God. So those are a few stories in 72 that we know that happened there. Krishna, glories to Prabhupada.
Thank you very much for being here with us, for giving us these new stories about Mexico. Now we would like to hear from Jai Gauranga. Jai Gaura from Hamburg, Germany. He lives and serves there. Do you want to share?
No.
Oh.
Om Ajnana-timirandasya Janandana Sakaya Sakshu Amritam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svavapadantikam. So I came to the temple in 1970, but Prabhupada he came to the temple in 69, so I can tell some stories from this time. So it was Shivananda from the United States. He was very enthusiastic to preach in Europe, and he came to Europe as the first devotee to come. And he wanted to join, he had to come to England, but they didn't give him the entrance. Then he went to Netherlands, he could not go there. Then he went to Berlin, and then he rented a room with 3 walls, and one wall was no wall. So it doesn't work out. So then he came to Hamburg. So in Hamburg they found a place, a very small place. And then Prabhupada came even before London. So then this was Janmashtami. There's also a lecture of Prabhupada giving in Hamburg on Janmashtami. And he spent like 3 weeks in Hamburg. And then he initiated 4 devotees. This was Bhakti Bhushan Swami and Vasudev. Vasudev is a famous painter. He's not a devotee anymore, more or less. And 2 other persons, they came for the first time and never came back. And they were initiated. And then Prabhupada went to the harbor. We have a big harbor, and this is a story where Prabhupada went onto this harbor, and they saw a big ship with all the small boats pulling this big ship inside the harbor. Prabhupada said, this is our situation. We are spirit soul, we are very powerful, but our senses drag us into Maya. But if we lose this contact with these senses, or we get free, then the power of the soul is very powerful. As the big ship puts on this machine, then it's very powerful. So this is our situation, he says. So then he also went to the harbor worker. They drink beer in the morning at 7 o'clock. So Prabhupada decided, these people drinking in the morning already? Yeah, this is like Hamburg tradition, they drink in the morning. Another story is that in Germany, in Hamburg, they throw out garbage from the houses which people don't need. But they make always big piles of things on the road. So Prabhupada said, what is this? And the devotee said, this is garbage, this is like old furniture. And then Prabhupada said, you take this, and you take this. And they take the carpets and some furniture from this garbage and brought it to the temple. So at that time, Shivananda told that the devotees, the program was getting up, drinking a glass of milk and go to work. So this was the morning program of the devotees. So they had to maintain the temple. And Shivananda, recently he came to Hamburg and showed all the pilgrimage place where Prabhupada went, and there was a little park with a bench. And he said, this bench, Prabhupada was sitting on this bench. And Prabhupada was there, and they said, we should take this bench and rip it off, take the wood and sell it or something. And then next to the bench, we saw there was someone writing a jaka note on the bench. Someone had written something like jaka note on the bench. I don't know, this is a little special. So then I came 1970 to the temple, and I saw these rugs in the temple also. Later I remember these rugs. And the devotees, they gave me some soup, and I had to eat the soup without a spoon, and it was a little strange. But immediately I was attracted to the smell of the temple, going up the stairs. It was a special transcendental smell of the incense in this kitchen. So then I had to go to school at the same time. My parents, they took me out in the middle of the night from the temple with the police, put me to jail, and then I had to make a compromise. I had to go to school, and for 9 months I went to school every morning from the temple, and then back to the temple, and this way I finished my school.
How old were you?
18. So at this time you could not, I had to go. So then I was initiated by Srila Prabhupada by letter, and I also got a second initiation by Srila Prabhupada by letter. So then from this Hamburg temple, all the devotees from the whole yatra more or less came, like Satchidananda Swami, Bhakti Bhushan Swami, Bhakti Vaibhava Swami, Smita Krishna Swami, Krishna Chetra, Pritu, and all these devotees are still there. They came from this temple. It was this Hansadutta was there, Himavati also there. It was a very ecstatic temple program. One little story is that we all went to the underground trains without paying, and we had all devotees on, and then the people come checking our tickets, and all the devotees had no tickets, so they all checked, all other people, but the devotees didn't check for the tickets. So for me it's also. So one experience, my first experience was we went on the street doing Harinam, and then the other side there were some workers, and they had their pause, and they feel a little disturbed by our singing, so they came with some iron chain to beat us up, stop this nonsense. So I was thinking, I was in Kami clothes with the devotees, and then I said, okay, I just closed my eyes, and then we sing Namaste, and then I opened my eyes, and I just gone. So this was one of my first experiences, how this Krishna consciousness works. So then later, Srila Prabhupada, he came to Paris. I think it was 72. So all the devotees, I was already initiated, but I never saw Srila Prabhupada. So we all were taught that we have to serve the spiritual master in separation. This was our German policy. The British devotees were always with Prabhupada. He spent there for 6 months in London. But and Hansadutta, he was our spiritual father, and Himavati was our spiritual mother. So we just, we tried to serve Prabhupada in separation. So Prabhupada, he came to Paris, and all the devotees went first to see Prabhupada to Paris. So then he was waiting for Prabhupada, and Prabhupada just came up, standing on the top of the stairs, and we were standing low, and then I was thinking, okay, this is Prabhupada, the mystical, the spiritual master, and he must be something special. So then I saw Prabhupada for the first time, and then I just saw that how small Prabhupada is. I never realized that Prabhupada was very small in stature. But then from his eyes, I saw some. I think he was. Now I don't know really until now what happened, but I think he cried, or some waves coming from his eyes into my eyes. And then I was also bowing down and crying, and then I realized that Krishna and Prabhupada was having close connection. And Prabhupada, he cried because he saw this transcendental potency that he has so many disciples. They never see him, they never have seen him, but still they have become devotees. And Krishna is working, bringing him devotees, and Krishna is working together. And this was like some transcendental love. This is what I experienced, what Prabhupada experienced. I thought, at least, to some degree, that Prabhupada had this there is a transcendental love between Krishna and Prabhupada. And this is like, it came into my being, into my heart, and it was something very, this was the 1 second of having association with the pure devotee. It was, for me, it was like a supernatural experience. And I thought maybe I bowed down and I said, okay, I'm sentimental, you know, what happened to me. But then I talked to the devotees later, and all of them had some similar experiences, that this was a very special moment. That this was like 2 years serving, and then this just came in a very powerful way, Prabhupada's presence. So then we went with Prabhupada on morning walk. I could walk with Prabhupada in this Paris. And then I was behind Prabhupada walking, and I thought, I have to follow in the footsteps of the spiritual master, but I have to follow the guru and the spiritual master. And so I went behind Prabhupada, and all the others were standing in front, seeing Prabhupada, and talking, and I was like in the back, and I feel I'm too much humble and too much in the back, and I regretted this whole thing, And then later, some 2 years ago, someone said to me, you are in this Prabhupada book, You are in this Prabhupada book, and there is all the devotees standing in Paris in this big park, and I'm directly behind Prabhupada, and this is a very, it can be like taken out with me, and Prabhupada just with me. So I'm standing behind Prabhupada, and Prabhupada had some, like, what's called radiance. It was a sun in the back, something, but looks like Prabhupada is radiating some holy radiation. But I think it's the light from the sun, something. But I was standing behind Prabhupada, and I said, okay, this is, after 30 years or 40 years, Krishna is revealing we have done the right thing, standing behind Prabhupada. This is a good sign. There was another story, is the Jardin des Roses, the garden of roses. Prabhupada had a lecture, and then suddenly he just stopped the lecture in the middle of the lecture, and he went away. And then 5 minutes later, the rain came, like torrents of rain. So we also thought that Prabhupada knew this rain will come, and then like this. So then Prabhupada came to Amsterdam, Betanienstraat, Amsterdam temple. We went there with Prabhupada to see Prabhupada. Then 1974 I went to India with Prabhupada, 6 weeks in India. We were washing these Krishna Balaram Mandir with buckets. It was the inauguration of this temple. And we saw every day Prabhupada gave lectures like this. And we went to Hyderabad also with Prabhupada. So and then 1975 Prabhupada went to our castle. We had a big castle in Germany, Schloss Rettershof, near Frankfurt. And then Prabhupada came there for the first time. It was the second time Prabhupada came to Germany. And my devotee friend, Uttal, I heard Uttal gets married. Prabhupada is there. He gets married. So I thought, okay, I also get married. It must be auspicious to get married. And I also had a little competition with this Uttal. If he gets married, also I want to get married. And so it was the mood of the time. So then I asked her to do that. I want to marry this Santi Mati. She was the best book distributor in Germany. She was like a miracle book distributor. Mataji, she wants to make a demonstration how to sell books. She just gave the book. She didn't say anything. She just smoked and smiled. And then the person took the book. It was like a miracle. And she was selling so much books. And I asked her how she does it later on. And the miracle, how she does it is she just gives the book, and whatever the person gives, she accepts. And then she also accepts donations. If people give for free, without taking a book, they give you a donation. So the whole day she's completely understood, no stress. She just gives the book. She's always happy. people give, no one complaining. So this was her thing. So I thought I should marry her. And I asked Hansadutta, next, I want to get married this Sunday, Monday. So next day he said, it's okay, you can marry her. And then I went with her, there was a big way to this castle. I went with her down to the bank, there was a big, and I was just talking about preaching to her, and she said nothing. And then we went back, and this was our, learning what is the other person. And next day I got married. So Prabhupada was sitting on the Vyasasana, and we got married in front of Prabhupada. Next year I'm 40 years married with this. This is one of my sons. I have 9 children, and this is one of my sons. I have 5 daughters and 4 boys. Nine. Okay. That is. Yeah. My wife said to me she had a dream she will give a son to me as a present, and he was not already in production. So then he came, he was born one day before my birthday, he was born like this. And she gave it to me as a present next day. She had the dream already. So and later I realized that I was not the only one I wanted to get married to this girl, but there were 2 other persons also standing in line to get married to her. And this was one Ramohan, you don't know maybe, but the other one was Paramadvaiti Swami, Alanat. At that time he was Alanat. Later he became Paramadvaiti. Everyone knows Paramadvaiti. He has his own movement and everything. So he said he wanted to get married to this girl or no girl, like this. So Krishna has arranged for him that now he can preach. He's a sannyasi. Big guru, Hare Krishna. So this is what. So then I have 2 letters from Srila Prabhupada. One is the initiation letter, and the second is I wrote a letter to Prabhupada. I want to write a letter to Prabhupada, so I wrote something to Prabhupada, and then he wrote me back. And then when I was reading the letter, I realized that this is just like reading a commentary on Bhagavad Gita, or reading a commentary of Srimad Bhagavatam. It's like I could have opened the book of Bhagavad Gita and read the book. Why I should bother my spiritual master writing to me all the same things? It was like the same style, the same words, the same. I realized it's like the spiritual master is giving everything in his books. So what is the use of writing a special letter? You can just open the book. So this was my realization that if I heard her, she never met Srila Prabhupada. So I was also thinking there is a spiritual master which is alive, present. If you just try to be meditating on the signs Krishna is giving to you. If you pray to some, you have some answer, you have some question, and you pray to Krishna, please give me the answer, or Prabhupada give me the answer, then the answer will come. One has to just be conscious and see what the signs of Krishna is giving, and then these signs are coming, and then you see this works. It works. Krishna is there, Prabhupada is there, and the whole process works. And then you become really, you're on the right path, and you don't, even Prabhupada is not gone. 35 years Prabhupada is gone. Still we are connected with Prabhupada, and we feel this connection. And this is very wonderful, Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much for explaining that Krishna consciousness is a way of life.
Yeah.
So we thank you all very much for coming. Tomorrow we will be in the Balaram Hall. So please do come.